The sharp metallic crack echoed across the glass-walled conference hall, and every executive in the room turned their heads. A small copper coin spun across the polished floor before coming to a stop beneath a billion-dollar presentation screen. For a moment, nobody spoke. The woman who had accidentally crushed it under her designer heel barely glanced down. To her, it was just an old coin. To the single father standing silently at the end of the table, it was the last gift his late daughter had ever placed in his hand. What happened next would trigger a chain of events so unexpected that it would freeze a $2 billion aviation contract, shake one of the largest aerospace companies in the country, and change 2 lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness still matters, if you believe people deserve second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Dad Chronicles. Your support helps bring powerful stories like this to more people around the world. Morning sunlight poured through the towering windows of Orion Aerospace headquarters, casting golden reflections across the marble floors. Employees moved quickly through the building carrying tablets, blueprints, and reports. At the very top floor sat the company's celebrated CEO, Seraphina Vale, a woman whose name was known across the aviation industry. At only 39, she had transformed a struggling aircraft manufacturing company into a global powerhouse worth billions. Investors admired her discipline. Competitors feared her precision. Employees respected her intelligence but often whispered about her coldness. Few people knew that success had come at a cost. Years of relentless ambition had left little room for family, friendships, or anything that could slow her climb to the top. Every decision was measured by results. Every relationship was filtered through efficiency. Her world had become one of numbers, contracts, and deadlines. Several miles away, in a modest neighborhood near the edge of the city, Rowan Mercer carefully buttoned his shirt while studying himself in a mirror with a cracked corner. The shirt was old but clean. His tie had been repaired twice. He checked the small copper coin resting in his palm before slipping it into his pocket. The coin was worn smooth by years of handling. Most people would have considered it worthless. To Rowan, it was priceless. 5 years earlier, his 8-year-old daughter Marisol had placed the coin in his hand during a county fair. She had smiled and told him it was their lucky coin. 3 months later, a rare illness took her life. Since then, Rowan carried the coin everywhere. It reminded him that love mattered more than money and that hope could survive even the darkest losses. After Marisol's death, life became brutally difficult. Medical bills consumed his savings. His wife had left years before. Alone, Rowan worked countless jobs to survive. Yet despite the hardship, he refused to surrender his dream. He had founded a small aviation engineering company called Horizon Dynamics. The company operated from a rented warehouse and consisted of only 12 employees. They lacked prestige, funding, and influence. What they possessed was innovation. For 7 years, Rowan and his team had developed a revolutionary fuel efficiency system capable of reducing aircraft operating costs dramatically. Major companies ignored him. Investors laughed at him. Banks rejected him. Then came an opportunity nobody expected. The federal government announced a massive aviation modernization initiative worth nearly $2 billion. Companies nationwide competed for the contract. Against impossible odds, Horizon Dynamics advanced through multiple rounds thanks to the brilliance of their technology. The final evaluation meeting would take place that morning. Rowan entered Orion Aerospace headquarters feeling the weight of years on his shoulders. He wasn't merely presenting a business proposal. He was presenting the dream that had kept him alive after losing his daughter. Inside the conference room, executives reviewed documents while analysts prepared projections. Seraphina entered precisely on schedule. The presentation began. Rowan spoke with calm conviction. He described the engineering breakthroughs, the environmental benefits, and the financial advantages. Gradually, skeptical faces became interested. Questions turned into discussions. Discussions turned into genuine excitement. For the first time in years, Rowan felt possibility. Then everything changed. As the meeting concluded, Rowan reached into his pocket to retrieve a flash drive containing additional simulation data. The copper coin slipped free and landed on the floor. It rolled across the room. Before anyone could react, Seraphina stepped forward. The heel of her shoe came down directly on the coin. A sharp crack echoed through the room. The coin split into two pieces. Several executives barely noticed. Rowan did. His face lost color instantly. He stared at the broken pieces lying on the floor like fragments of a shattered memory. Seraphina looked down briefly and frowned. Without understanding its significance, she casually remarked that it was only an old coin and that someone could dispose of it. The room fell silent. Rowan slowly bent down and picked up the pieces. He wasn't angry. He wasn't shouting. But the pain in his eyes was impossible to miss. For a moment, he seemed less like a businessman and more like a father standing beside a hospital bed all over again. Something shifted inside the room. People sensed it immediately. The meeting ended awkwardly. Rowan thanked everyone for their time and left. That evening, while executives celebrated what seemed like a successful contract negotiation, unexpected news arrived from federal auditors. The entire $2 billion aviation agreement had been frozen. Every department erupted into confusion. No one understood why. Investigations began immediately. Financial records were reviewed. Compliance reports were examined. Technical evaluations were scrutinized. Hours turned into days. The contract remained frozen. Media outlets began asking questions. Investors became nervous. Stock prices dipped. Pressure mounted on Seraphina from every direction. For the first time in years, she found herself facing a problem she couldn't solve through sheer determination. Meanwhile, Rowan returned to his warehouse. He said little about the meeting. His employees worried about the contract but noticed something else. Their founder seemed unusually quiet. Late one evening, Rowan sat alone at his workbench. The broken pieces of the coin rested beneath a lamp. He carefully cleaned them. Then he opened an old wooden box containing photographs of Marisol. Pictures from birthdays. Pictures from school plays. Pictures from the county fair where she had found the coin. The memories arrived like waves. He remembered her laughter. Her dreams. The way she believed every person deserved kindness. Tears filled his eyes. Yet instead of collapsing under grief, he remembered something she once said. She had believed broken things could still be beautiful. That thought stayed with him. The following week brought another surprise. Federal investigators requested additional documentation from every company involved in the contract. During the review process, they discovered something remarkable. Years earlier, Horizon Dynamics had voluntarily shared safety innovations with smaller manufacturers without charging licensing fees. Those innovations had prevented multiple accidents industry-wide. The investigators also uncovered evidence that Rowan had quietly funded engineering scholarships for disadvantaged students despite struggling financially himself. The discoveries spread quickly. Industry leaders began speaking about him differently. Journalists started researching his story. Articles appeared highlighting his perseverance, integrity, and contributions to aviation safety. Public opinion shifted dramatically. At the same time, Seraphina found herself reading those articles late at night. For reasons she couldn't fully explain, she kept thinking about Rowan's expression when he picked up the broken coin. Eventually, curiosity overcame her. She ordered a background investigation. When the report arrived, she spent hours reading. She learned about Marisol. She learned about the illness. She learned about the years Rowan spent rebuilding his life. Most importantly, she learned the coin's history. For the first time in a very long time, Seraphina felt ashamed. Not because she had broken a coin. Because she had failed to recognize a human story standing directly in front of her. Success had made her efficient. But it had also made her blind. The realization disturbed her deeply. Several days later, she drove alone to Horizon Dynamics. No assistants. No security team. No media. Just herself. The warehouse looked nothing like Orion Aerospace headquarters. Paint peeled from some walls. Equipment showed signs of age. Employees worked with determination despite limited resources. Yet there was something inspiring about the place. Every person seemed connected by purpose rather than profit. When Rowan saw her arrive, surprise crossed his face. They walked through the facility together. Seraphina observed prototypes, research stations, and testing equipment. She listened as engineers explained their work. Gradually she realized something important. Innovation wasn't born from luxury. Sometimes it emerged from struggle. Finally, they reached Rowan's office. There, resting inside a glass display case, were the repaired pieces of the copper coin. Carefully joined together. Visible cracks remained. Yet somehow the coin looked more meaningful than before. Seraphina stared silently. For the first time in years, words failed her. Eventually she apologized. Not as a CEO protecting her reputation. Not as a negotiator managing public relations. But as a human being acknowledging another person's pain. The apology was sincere. Rowan accepted it. Not because the hurt disappeared. But because carrying resentment would not honor his daughter's memory. Weeks later, federal auditors completed their investigation. The contract freeze ended. Their conclusion surprised everyone. Rather than awarding the entire project to a single corporation, they recommended a collaborative partnership between Orion Aerospace and Horizon Dynamics. The decision reflected both innovation and operational capability. Industry experts called it unprecedented. Financial analysts called it risky. But the results proved extraordinary. The partnership generated technological breakthroughs that exceeded expectations. Fuel efficiency records were shattered. Safety standards improved. Environmental impact decreased. Thousands of jobs were created. The project became one of the most successful aviation initiatives in modern history. Yet the greatest transformation wasn't measured in dollars. It occurred within two people. Seraphina gradually changed her leadership style. She spent more time listening and less time judging. Employees noticed the difference. Company culture improved. Relationships strengthened. Rowan continued honoring Marisol's memory through scholarships and mentorship programs. 1 year later, during the project's celebration ceremony, a special display stood near the entrance. Inside a glass case rested a simple copper coin. Visitors often stopped to examine it. Many wondered why such an ordinary object occupied a place among billion-dollar achievements. Those who knew the story understood. The coin represented something greater than wealth. It represented empathy, humility, forgiveness, and the reminder that every person carries invisible battles. As sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Rowan stood outside the ceremony venue watching aircraft cross the horizon. For a brief moment, he imagined Marisol smiling beside him. Not because everything had become perfect, but because goodness had survived. Her small gift had changed lives long after she was gone. And perhaps that was the true measure of a legacy. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Dad Chronicles. Stories of kindness and resilience deserve to be shared with people who need hope today. Special request, comment, kindness has wings, if you believe one act of compassion can change someone's entire future. The evening sky slowly darkened as the final aircraft disappeared beyond the clouds. Rowan held the repaired coin in his hand and smiled. The cracks were still there. They always would be. But sometimes the most beautiful things are not the ones that never break. They are the ones that find the strength to become whole again. And in a world obsessed with wealth, power, and success, a broken copper coin had quietly taught a billion-dollar industry the value of a human heart.